Player coming at you with my first chaotic video. Real video for anyone who doesn't fully understand the rules of chaotic. So these are a bunch of my cards. Fire, Water, Wisdom. And Outperform Power 5 and Initiative Fire, so you're probably gonna go first. I love Ninder, he's amazing. I'm gonna call this my Desert Raiders deck.
Ultra Rare Headmaster and Kaija.
Ooh, these brand once again. Probably my favorite pull today. Elemental. This is up YouTube. Speed Player 8 here, coming at you with another match on Trade Cards Online. What is up YouTube? Speed Player 8 here, and what I have is 288 packs of Secrets of Velocity Alliances Unraveled. What is up YouTube? It's Speed Player 8 here, coming at you with another chaotic video. So, in case anyone's been keeping track, it's now been well over a month since my last upload, and you know, I thank you guys for watching. Like I've been keeping tabs on the videos, getting some good views. I've actually gotten a few more subscribers, so if you subscribe to my channel within the last 2 weeks, I thank you very much for that. But yeah, I've literally had no time, like, at all. Any moment of free time I had has been completely eaten up. Like the time I have right now to film this is just like a little bit for today, and then I gotta get right back to working. So yeah. Anyways, enough of that. Let's get to the deck. So I was having a bit of trouble coming up with a new deck idea. So then I was looking through the decks people post on Trade Cards Online, as I do usually. If there's a new deck up, I'll vote on it every single time. And this deck was inspired by one of Firecrafter's decks. And if you look at the video description below, I will link to this deck. This deck will be on Trade Cards Online, and then in the description of that deck, you can find the link to Firecrafter's deck and a whole bunch of other stuff. So anyways, this is a mixed Danian Minion Marillion deck with the one Overworlder. And yeah, this deck's called Bladed Bugs. It's a semi-Bodil's Dagger, semi-Courage. First reason is because I don't have that many good, like, Bodil's Dagger attacks. Like, I only have one Retaliatory Strike, no Heptagon Hail, only one Primal Smash. So it's kind of hard to make a full Bodil's Dagger deck. And also this deck is just kind of based around getting lots of damage. So anyways, let's go into it. So the Bodil's Dagger aspect is with Agrino Jaldar. And Agrino Jaldar is actually a really underused creature because he's got good energy. And then if we look at his abilities here, so for his normal ability, gains 5 energy for each Danian you control. And that's so you activate his hive and you're at full strength. And I assume this, actually I think his abilities might include himself, because it doesn't say for each other minion. Okay, somebody correct me, but for now I'm going to assume that that ability includes himself, so he should just innately gain 5 energy. But anyways, you're at full strength with his normal ability, and that's 25 to 30 energy, just 5 damage to minions. I, however, am using his Brainwashed, because that additional 5 damage to infected creatures, you can do more about that with minions, because you can infect creatures, and then I have additional minions, so he's going to gain more energy. So the basic idea is you infect your opponent's creatures, you get his extra 5, and then with the Bodil's Dagger you get an extra 10. So that's 15 on all Bodil's Dagger attacks, and then just 5 on normal attacks. So yeah, I have 2 of him. This one has max courage, I believe. I think they both have max energy, which is 60. And yeah, that's basically what they're there for. The Music counter is also good for casting a couple Musics. And yeah, my other frontliner, I picked Hermatred. I picked him mostly just because of his ability. Not the Water 5. The opposing gauge creature infected gains 15, and since I will be infected, then that's an additional 15 energy. Like I said, this is a Courage deck, and so I picked one with max Courage as well as max energy, and I gave him the Evergreen Tunic. So if you're facing an infected creature, then that's 15 energy plus this 20 energy, so that's 35 energy, so he's going to be at 90. And that's pretty good. That's all I can really ask for in this kind of deck. Yeah. And then the fact that he's a Mandalore also helps out with some other stuff. In the back, now this is kind of the core of this deck. He makes a lot of things possible. So Caxor with the Mujix Tuning Fork. He's going to cast your O2 Obscurity, and I'll go to the Mujix in a sec. But yeah, you don't even need Caxor. As long as you have any minion with 3 Mujix counters and you give him a Tuning Fork, then that's all you need. I chose him because his his Brainwash ability is also good. So this would stop a Tardrax Sai from raising your Chieftain's Wisdom and destroying them, and my Chieftain doesn't have an AZ Mind Probe, so that's good. So that's why he's in there. And then Tabal, and also he has the tuning fork because it's a Dany music, and also minions can only cast generic anyways. Tabal is in here for the additional minion as well as additional Mandiblore. He can cast some of your music. I also put him in here because you can sacrifice him to get more infect in case you need that little bit of extra infect. And yeah, otherwise you can just sacrifice him whenever you want, really. Or keep him around for the additional minion energy. And then, again, core of his deck, he activates all your Brainwash Zistork. I have him in here just because of the extra energy. Originally, I was thinking of going with Nethar, but their courage isn't high enough. Highest is only 95. I don't consider that enough for Challenge 50. So yeah, if you couple him with the energy that Agrino gains from minions, so his ability says 5 energy for each minion you control. So let's assume that that doesn't include like himself, the card itself. That's 4 other minions, so that's 20, so that's 80. And then plus 10 for each element. So even if your opponent only has 1, that's 90 energy, plus additional 5 damage, plus Bodil's Dagger. So that's pretty good. And then because he's so important in your only Chieftain, I gave him Allmarsh Projector, so you can bring him back. If you lose him, because this deck has no Defender, because really there's no room for Defender in here. Yeah. Mujiks. So, like I said, Ode to Obscurity. This works because you have non-Daning creatures, so these two. So you get 2 infects per counter you spend. I recommend spending all 3 just so you can get it right out of the way. Infect all your opponent's creatures first, and then if you want to sacrifice Tabal, you can infect your creatures as well. But this is really the main thing. Tonal Destruction, this is just in here because to stop any threats. You're probably going to want to cast this off Tabal. Depending on your music situation, you might want to use 1 or 2. Use the best just from there. I'm running 2 Cadence Clash, so you can just run 1 off each Agrino, because they have a counter. Surprising Rifts is just a good generic music to have. You can use it for lots of things, such as you can use it on a Zerium armor if you really wanted to. You could also use it on a Shard to get rid of Defender. If you had a Bimotorcycle, you could also use it on a Bronze Flight, but yeah. So just Tabal because he's got the flute, so if he has some extra counters. And lastly, Song of Future Sight, also good generic music. If you want, you can look at your attack or your opponent's attack or your locations. Just good filler. And again, really the only music you need here is Ode to Obscurity. Any of these other ones you could set out for anything else, really. You could use a Nourishing... Oh, actually, yeah. Nourishing Nocturne might not be a bad idea. Except for, well, actually, yeah. I don't know. If you really wanted to, you could sacrifice Okaxor. Why didn't I think of that, actually? Okay, depending on how I feel, I might change this on Trade Cards Online to include a Nourishing Nocturne, and that would probably go on Okaxor. Or maybe not, because then you want the additional Agrino energy. So yeah, don't do that. You want to keep your minions around as long as possible. Locations. Okay, so this is an Infect deck. So I am running 2 Mount Pillar Reservoir Liberated. You want this because it infects your opponent and yourself. And the reason you want yourself to be infected is because I have a couple Mandiblore Mites in here. So that's going to boost your damage. And also initiative with your fighters. They're initiative Danian, so that's always good. Good filler card for locations. 2 Mipid and Mirage. Can work in literally any deck. Because this is a Bodil's Dagger deck, this also works exceptionally well, because you want your opponent to fight your Dagger fighters, because they are your strongest, so this can force them to fight Agrino, and again, Initiative Danian, so that's also an advantage. I'm running 2 Newman Voidland, just because you have no use for elements. There is 1 water attack, but that's just a filler, because there was really nothing else I could put in. But another reason this could work is because, even though your Agrinos don't have elements, her Matrix could potentially gain some extra energy. So you know if you're fighting an infected creature, going to gain 15. With the gear, he's going to gain 20, so that's 90. And then plus Zistork. By the way, Newman's does work with Zistork. The way the burst works out, you gain your energy first and then you lose elements. So say your opponent has 2 elements, that's 110 energy with the extra energy, and then plus the location. Since he loses his water, that's an additional 10. So 120 energy. So maybe fight with Hermitra just because you're going to have massive energy with this. Agrino has no elements, so for him it's really only going to take away from your opponent. And yeah. Hive Gallery, because I said this is part courage, so you want to get that extra damage on your courage attacks. So if you can fight with Agrino when this comes up, obviously do it. Because then you're going to, and if they're infected, you'll have plus 10 on all, so plus 5 on all attacks, plus 10 on all Bodil's Dagger attacks, and then plus 5 on all courage attacks. So you could be looking at plus 10 or plus 15 on every single attack in this deck. And so then 2 of those, so that's good. Mind Scrying Chamber, unfortunately this doesn't work with Zistor because you lose elements right away, but just taking away elements can be worth it. If you're facing a deck with Omar Parathon Racer, for example, then they're not going to be able to expend on you. If you're facing Headmaster and Kaiju deck, that gets rid of all air. So getting rid of elements is never a bad idea. Feel free to sub this out for something else if you always want to have that Zistork boost, but I like it. And lastly, card I'm using, kind of a filler, but kind of not. Grand Hall of Muges Summit. So if you guys watched my Zenith booster box opening, this was the only new card I got. And the reason this is good is because any of your music you have, you don't need to use in combat because you can all really be used before combat. And so what this does is it stops your opponent from trying to use music and abilities. Because whenever you remove a music counter, the engaged creature controlled by that player takes 10. So you're really not going to have to do anything. You don't have that many options for in-combat boosts anyways. But your opponent might have a Drabe or Ember Flourishes or something. Or they might want to do, I don't know, any counters they remove. Okay, the way this works is your opponent is more likely to have an ability that they're going to use which involves music counters than you are, just because this deck doesn't have any of those. So then, but this prevents them, or if they're stupid enough to do it, then they're going to take that damage. So it's either preventing them from gaining something or preventing you from taking damage, but then if they do it, they're going to have to pay as well. A little side note, if you use this with Super Cooled Rain and Hewn Paltanen, it would be super OP because you're removing counters with Super Cooled Rain, so that's 4. So that's 40 from Super Cooled Rain and 40 from the location. So that's 80 damage, and then if you gain the stuff with Hewn Paltanen, that's 40 energy gained. So that would be 80 damage and 40 gain, and now that I've said that, a bunch of people might use it. I think I might use it in a deck as well, if I get another one of these. And that is the location deck. The attack deck, like I said, semi-courage, Bodil's Dagger. I'm not sure the exact number. You should see an annotation popping up right now showing the total courage attacks and total Bodil's Dagger attacks. Doesn't really matter. So anyways, 1 Fear Projection, just because it's a Bodil's Dagger attack and gets rid of some courage for your challenges. Screeching Scare, Bodil's Dagger, and doesn't count for courage, but can just be 5 damage innately. Spirit Gust for some damage and courage. Shadow Strike for 10 damage. And then remember, with all these attacks, if you're fighting an infected creature, it's an additional 5 no matter what. So that's always good. So this could be 15 plus Hive Gallery. So yeah. Like I mentioned, Mandibular Might. I put this in here because it does count as it is a Bodil's Dagger attack, obviously. And I checked with Afjack, and so even if your adjacent creature isn't a Mandibular, so let's take our Caxor here. He's obviously not a Mandibular, but apparently if I infect him, which I can via locations or Tabal or something, and he's next to Agrino, then he can boost the damage on this. So that's why I have 2 of them, Bodil's Dagger plus potential boost for myself. Plus Tabal and Hermatrid are innately Mandibulars, so they can help you as well with these. 2 Squeeze Play, obvious Bodil's Dagger attack, 15 with the daggers if they're infected, 20, and you get to rearrange your attack deck a bit. Same deal with Flash Kick, except for locations. Anyone just made a Bodil's Dagger, you have to have these 4 attacks. I put in Marksman's just for that 30 damage that you get, because you want to have damage in as many ways as possible. Potentially an additional 5 if you're fighting infected, but it doesn't really matter. Primal Smash, so if you're fighting an infected creature with the dagger, that's 35 damage, always good. Daunting Bravery, Courage, 15, again, boost, various boosts. Xenocentric Wrath, sorry. So 2 Xenocentric Wrath, just because Bodil's Dagger. This works best if you're using Tribalist creatures, which is why Ursus Dagger decks are so effective. because it's not likely your opponent will also have tribal creatures. So, you know, odds are kind of good that your opponent might have Danians, but if they don't and you have a dagger, then it's 30, but if they do, if the opposing creature is a Danian, it's still 20, then plus your infect, so, you know, still good. Plus it's only 2 build point attack, that's a Bowdagger. I put an Incessant Wave just because it's courage. You could use what's it called? Charge of the Brave if you really wanted to, but I don't think 85 and 95 courage are high enough for that. But hey, you might be able to because you have the Daunting Bravery and the Fear Projection. But yeah, and if you do have Hermatrid with his water, then Water 5 will kick in, so that's kind of good. And lastly, Retaliatory Strike, just because it's my biggest Bowdagger attack, aside from Slash Claw, but Slash Claw obviously wouldn't work here. For those of you who haven't seen it before, Retaliatory Strike deals additional damage equal to the damage dealt by the last tech played this combat. So for those of you who don't know, say your opponent hits you with a Primal Smash when they attacked you last, so that's 20 damage. So then you would add that to this attack, plus the base damage, so that's 20 plus 5, that's 25, plus the dagger is 35, and yeah, you all understand that. So this is the deck, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. Reminder, this deck is called Bladed Bugs. Never tested it out before, might do it soon. Maybe I won't, I don't know. I have a feeling this deck will do okay. Obviously, because you don't have that many useful Mugic, decks with good Mugic might be able to beat you more easily. Plus, if they have good supporting abilities as well, Burn deck would probably rip through this, but who knows. So, anyways, I'm SpeedPlayerA. I thank you all for watching and for continuing to watch my videos. I hope you enjoy. In case you're wondering if it's going to be another month before I upload another video, again, I hope not, but we are closing out the end of the school year, so pray I'm able to do it within the next 3 weeks. If I am going to do it, it's going to be within the next 3 weeks, so yeah. See you later, guys. Peace. Hope you enjoyed.